Have you ever had that strange moment in the middle of the night when you suddenly wake up and realize you're freezing? Not just a little chilly, but the kind of cold that makes you pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders. You might even check the thermostat or grab another blanket, wondering what changed. The room felt perfectly comfortable when you went to bed. The blanket felt warm. Everything seemed fine. Yet somehow, at exactly the wrong time, usually around 2 or 3 a.m., the warmth disappears. Most people assume the problem is simple. Maybe the room is too cold. Maybe the blanket isn't thick enough. Maybe the heating system turned off. So the next night, they add another comforter or turn the thermostat up. But the strange thing is that the problem often keeps happening. What if the real reason you wake up cold has nothing to do with the blanket on top of you? What if the real heat leak in your bed is happening underneath you the entire night? This idea sounds strange at first because modern sleep culture trains us to think about warmth from above. When people want to stay warm, they pile blankets on top. Thicker duvets, heavier comforters, fluffy down layers that look like clouds. Bedding advertisements always show warmth coming from above, like a soft mountain of fabric wrapping around the sleeper. But the physics of heat doesn't work the way most people imagine. Your body is constantly producing heat. Even while you sleep, your metabolism is generating warmth. That warmth naturally spreads into the air and materials around you. The goal of a good sleep setup isn't to create heat, it's to keep the heat your body already produces from escaping. And here's the critical detail most people miss. Heat doesn't just escape upward into the air, it also moves directly into anything colder that touches your body. When you lie down at night, nearly half of your body is pressed against the mattress. That mattress is usually cooler than you are. Because of this temperature difference, heat starts moving from your body into the mattress immediately. This process is called conduction. Conduction is one of the fastest ways heat moves. It happens whenever a warm surface touches a cooler one. Your body transfers heat directly into the material beneath you. And mattresses are extremely good at absorbing heat. Foam, memory foam, and hybrid mattresses are dense materials. When your body presses into them, the surface area contact becomes large. That large contact area allows heat to transfer quickly from your body into the mattress. At the beginning of the night, you may not notice this happening. Your body is still warm from being active during the day. Your blankets trap some heat above you. Everything feels comfortable. But as the night progresses, something subtle starts to change. Your core body temperature naturally drops while you sleep. This drop is part of the body's normal sleep cycle. In fact, falling asleep requires your body temperature to decrease slightly. Your brain lowers the thermostat of your body to enter deeper stages of sleep. When this natural temperature drop happens, the heat loss through the mattress becomes much more noticeable. The mattress continues pulling heat downward. Your body is producing slightly less heat, and suddenly the balance shifts. That's why so many people wake up cold in the early morning hours. Not because the blanket failed, not because the heater stopped working, but because the heat beneath them has been slowly draining away all night. This is the hidden heat leak most modern sleepers never consider. What makes this especially interesting is that people used to understand this problem very well. 200 years ago, people didn't have central heating. They slept in cabins, farmhouses, or wooden buildings where winter air could slip through tiny cracks in the walls. Nights were much colder than what most modern homes experience. Yet, historical records suggest something surprising. Many people actually managed to sleep warmer than we expect. The reason wasn't thicker blankets or luxury bedding, it was the way they built their sleep systems. Instead of focusing on what went on top of them, they focused on insulation beneath them. Early American settlers often placed wool blankets or thick woven materials underneath their bodies before lying down. Sometimes they layered straw mattresses, wool blankets, and quilts to create insulation between themselves and the cold surface below. The idea was simple. If you stop heat from escaping downward, The warmth your body produces becomes trapped around you. This principle was also widely used in military survival situations. During cold weather training, soldiers are taught something that surprises many beginners. In freezing environments, insulation beneath your body is often more important than insulation above it. If someone sleeps directly on cold ground, even with a warm sleeping bag, they can lose heat rapidly through the ground. That's why sleeping pads exist. The pad isn't primarily for comfort, it's for insulation. The same concept applies to your bed. Your mattress may feel soft and comfortable, but softness doesn't necessarily mean insulation. In fact, some of the most comfortable modern mattresses act like giant heat absorbers. They store warmth early in the night and slowly release it later. As your body temperature drops, that stored heat becomes less noticeable, and the mattress begins feeling colder again. That's when the 3 a.m. chill shows up. But the mattress isn't the only part of the story. There's another factor that quietly influences how warm or cold you feel during sleep, and most people never think about it. Air. Warmth inside bedding isn't actually stored in the fabric itself. It's stored in tiny pockets of still air. Air is a surprisingly good insulator when it doesn't move. That's why fluffy materials like wool, down, and certain fabrics work so well for warmth. They create thousands of tiny air pockets that trap heat. Your body warms that trapped air, and the air stays around you like a protective layer. But if air begins moving, if it escapes through gaps in the blanket or through open edges, then the warmth disappears quickly. Think about the small openings around your shoulders or neck when you sleep. Those openings act like chimneys. Warm air rises and slips out through them. As warm air escapes, cooler air replaces it. That small air exchange can make a big difference over several hours. This is why traditional bedding systems often focused on sealing the edges of blankets more carefully than modern setups. Instead of loosely draping blankets across the bed, people tucked and overlapped layers so that warm air stayed inside the bedding environment. They were essentially creating a small climate zone around their bodies. Not a heavy pile of blankets, but a controlled space where heat stayed trapped. The final piece of the puzzle is something even less visible: moisture. Every person releases moisture during sleep. Even if you don't feel sweaty, your body continuously releases small amounts of water vapor through your skin and breath. When that moisture evaporates, it removes heat. This process is called evaporative cooling. If moisture builds up inside bedding and evaporates near your skin, it can make you feel colder over time. Some synthetic materials trap that moisture, allowing it to accumulate during the night. Natural fibers, like wool, behave differently. Wool can absorb moisture vapor without feeling wet, and it still maintains insulating properties. That's one reason wool blankets were historically so common in colder climates. They helped manage moisture while still trapping warm air. When you combine all these factors together, downward heat loss, air movement, and moisture, the mystery of waking up cold begins to make sense. It's rarely just one problem. It's usually a system problem. Your body produces heat. The mattress pulls heat downward. Gaps in blankets allow warm air to escape. Moisture slowly removes heat through evaporation. Each factor alone might be small, but over several hours of sleep, the combined effect becomes noticeable. And that's when you wake up at 3 a.m. pulling the blanket tighter. The interesting thing is that fixing this problem often doesn't require buying new products. Sometimes the biggest improvement comes from small changes in how your bedding system is arranged. One of the simplest experiments you can try involves adding insulation beneath your body. Placing a folded blanket or insulating layer under your torso creates a buffer between your body and the mattress. This reduces conductive heat loss and keeps more warmth around you. Another change involves layering instead of relying on a single heavy comforter. Multiple lighter layers trap air more effectively than one thick layer. Each layer creates additional air pockets that hold warmth. Sealing the edges of your blankets can also make a noticeable difference. Reducing open gaps around your shoulders and sides keeps warm air from escaping too quickly. Even small adjustments at the foot of the bed can help. Folding the end of a blanket inward creates a pocket that traps warm air around your feet, where circulation is naturally weaker. None of these ideas are complicated. They're simply ways of controlling how heat moves around your body during sleep. Once you start thinking of your bed as a thermal system instead of just a soft surface, the entire concept of comfort changes. Instead of chasing thicker blankets or higher thermostats, you begin thinking about heat flow. Where is warmth escaping? Where is cold entering? What materials tap air best? What layers manage moisture? When those questions guide how your bed is arranged, the results can feel surprisingly different. Many people who experiment with these adjustments notice something interesting. They don't just feel warmer, they also sleep more deeply. That happens because the body prefers temperature stability during sleep. When your temperature swings too much, warm at first, cold later, the nervous system stays partially alert. Micro-awakenings happen more frequently, even if you don't remember them. Stable warmth creates a sense of safety for the body. When your brain senses consistent temperature, it relaxes more fully. Heart rate slows, stress hormones drop. Sleep becomes deeper and more restorative. This connection between warmth and relaxation has existed for as long as humans have slept in cold environments. For centuries, people developed bedding strategies not just for comfort, but for survival. A well-designed sleep setup meant the difference between restful sleep and a miserable night in freezing temperatures. Today, modern homes protect us from most extreme weather. Central heating, insulated walls, and electric blankets make cold nights far easier to manage. But in the process, many of the small techniques people once used have quietly faded from memory. We now rely heavily on products instead of understanding. Marketing tells us that comfort comes from buying the latest mattress technology, the newest cooling fabric, or the fluffiest duvet. Yet the basic physics of heat hasn't changed. Warmth still depends on trapped air. Heat still flows from warm surfaces to colder ones. Moisture still removes warmth when it evaporates. Those principles remain exactly the same. When you understand them, something interesting happens. You stop relying completely on external solutions and start adjusting the environment around your body more intentionally. Your bed becomes less of a decorative object and more of a personal climate system. And that system doesn't require expensive upgrades. Sometimes it only requires a different way of thinking about the space where you sleep. Tonight, before you get into bed, take a moment to look at your setup. Think about what's happening beneath you. Think about where air might be escaping. Think about how layers are arranged. Because once you notice the hidden heat leak under your body, you may never look at your mattress the same way again. And the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., you might finally understand why.